Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside View with Teddy Panos. I am your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you live. Well, actually, I keep saying live. I'm not coming to you live. I am live now, but you're going to be watching this in a recording from the Inside Lowell studios here in beautiful downtown Lowell. Have a special guest with me this morning as we continue to focus on the city of Lowell and the politics. We're going to be joined by City Councilor Kim Scott. Lots to talk about with her. We thank you again for joining us this morning. I want to thank our sponsors for helping make this podcast possible as well. And thank you to them for making Inside Lowell possible as well. InsideLowell.com. If Lowell is your home, this is your place. First, we start by thanking our friends at Washington Savings Bank, a tremendous institution over a century old here in the Mill City. They also have a branch in Dracut, and as part of their celebrations in Lowell and in Dracut, they're making a special offer to Lowell Dracut residents only. Open up a new account and directly deposit $1,000 in qualified direct deposits. Now, that could be a paycheck, Social Security check. All you need to do is get $1,000 directly deposited into that account within a month. You do so, they're going to give you $300, a 30% return on your money. Fantastic, right? Easy, simple. A lot of other great services as well for commercial business and, of course, for residential personal banking services. WashingtonSavings.com to learn more about all of the above. Thank you as well to our friends at Hafner's this time of year. Home heating oil is top of the mind for many greater Lowell residents. Don't get fooled by the nice stretch of weather. You know we're going to have a prolonged cold slap like we did a couple of weekends ago. Don't take any chances with your family or your home. Hafner's takes the worry off your mind with their comprehensive services, whether you use propane or heating oil to heat your home. They offer quick, reliable, friendly service, and they also offer great options like auto pay and auto delivery to make your life easier. Call 866-IT-KICKS to learn more. 866-IT-KICKS, just like the sign over my shoulder here. You can also learn more online at hafners.com. And last but certainly not least, thank you to our friends at Reverie 73. Folks always ask me for suggestions on new businesses in town. And quite frankly, I'm not up to speed on the cannabis industry all that well, or I hadn't been up until I started talking to our friends at Reverie 73. It's kind of confusing, right? A lot of folks get confused by the products, the services. They have a tough time differentiating one dispensary from another. Not the case with Reverie 73. The store itself stands out. It's bright, it's beautiful, it's clean. Their knowledgeable staff is ready to go the extra mile to answer any questions you might have. So whether you're new to the world of cannabis or a canna connoisseur, as they call them, Reverie 73 is sure to elevate your cannabis experience. Visit them, 1148 Bridge Street in Lowell, or you can also order online, Reverie73.com. And with that, we turn our attention to our special guest on this edition of the Inside View, Lowell City Councilor Kim Scott. Good morning, Councilor, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today.
It's great to have you here. You seem much more comfortable and at ease with the TV cameras on than we used to talk in my radio days, where you were always nervous.
Getting a lot of experience at this now, so it's a beautiful studio here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and we're glad to have you here. For your first term on the city council, hard to believe we're now a year plus into it. What's as the experience? You served on the school committee. Has serving on the council, is it comparable? What's the experience been like for you?
There's a lot more work on the city council than on the school side, and I can say that comfortably. So
really?
yeah,
Okay, that's interesting, because some folks say because you do a lot more committees on the school committee side because there's less committee members than there are counselors.
That's true, and you handle all the negotiations on the school side too, but just as far as the contact with residents, it's just every day, so which is different than the school side.
So what's your typical day like? You do have a job, you have a family.
I do. I have a full-time
two teenage
job,
daughters, so
yep.
you're a busy woman as is. But what does a typical day of a counselor entail?
I usually check my emails in the morning to see what I have, who's contacted me. Throughout the day, I'll receive texts or phone calls. My phone will be ringing while it's on Do Not Disturb because I'm at work full time. I usually spend my lunch hour out in my car calling people back And then the same on my ride home, 4:30 to 5 o'clock. I usually spend talking to people. And then at night, just checking social media, checking Inside Lowell, and then, responding to people.
Not as glamorous as it might seem for those who watch you on their TV every Tuesday night.
No, and I drive through the neighborhood all the time too, just kind of getting a pulse of what's happening and trying to be proactive about issues. So
what are you say people are constantly contacting you? What are is there a general theme that they're trying to get to? Is it the big ticket stuff that we all like to discuss in the media, or is it the day-to-day grind? What do you find?
Yeah, it's the day-to-day grind. It's the potholes, the cut through traffic in my neighborhood, especially in South Lowell. There's the absentee landlords that have, overflowing trash down the street. Those type of issues, a lot of illegal dumping issues. That's very common, one that we definitely need to do more work on. So
you mentioned the landlords, trash, those types of issues, the meat and potatoes of local government. What's your assessment now that you're kind of looking at it from the inside of how the city handles these through their inspectional services, through the DPW and the departments that really have their hand in this stuff day to day?
Well, I think we've been severely understaffed in those particular areas. We did just hire a full-time and a part-time inspector for the trash solid waste department. So I think right away you're going to start to see improvements in that area. We had one person really that was, taking calls for broken cots, for overflows, and we had issues with waste management not picking up. So there was no way that they could go out and do enforcement at the same time. So I wouldn't criticize the department or the manager. I think at this point in time, he's made the improvements that we need, and hopefully that, we see that going forward.
So the trash, I know there's been a big hubbub about that, about whether the waste management, who's our service provider in the city, are they getting fined properly? Are they living up to the fines? There was a little talk at a recent meeting that, the city's certainly getting punished, penalized for contamination in their recycling, etc. How do you balance holding waste management responsible versus the fact that they're dealing with some of the same issues that you are dealing with as a councilor? The city's dealing with staffing shortages. It just seems kind of tough in every facet of life to get people to work and do the jobs that we grew so accustomed to for a century of government service.
Yeah, I don't think it would be fair to waste management even to criticize necessarily all the them picking up the barrels that are contaminated. I don't think they're going to go barrel to barrel searching through them. As far as them not having staff to pick up the trash, I think that has improved. I think they've, gotten better about it. I haven't received the complaints that I was receiving. But I think until we have our solid waste inspectors out actually looking inside the barrels, I think that's the only way anything's going to improve, because people are using their recycling barrels like trash barrels. I mean, you just see them filled to the top with plastic trash bags, and it's not fair to the person that's going out and buying the purple overflow bags, so we definitely have to improve that, and we're working on it.
Is that situation getting worse? I know when the city first did its switch over to the system, I believe Bernie Lynch might have still been city manager, and I used to do a weekly spot with Gunther Wellenstein, the education process and whatnot. Do we need to kind of rededicate ourselves to that, or is it simply a lost cause trying to get people to do the right thing at this point? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's a lost cause. I mean, I think we were better than we are now. So something worked. And I did speak with our new full-time solid waste inspector the other day. His name is Greg. He said that one of the things they plan on doing is educational outreach to the schools. They plan on doing, stickering like Gunther used to do on the barrels, just so everyone knows. So they need to start watching out a little bit better on what they've been doing. And he also plans on sending out educational materials within the water bills, just to kind of do a little more outreach.
And the other challenge you deal with in Lowell, and we've talked about the language barrier, how do you get the word out to the different immigrant communities who are constantly coming in and out. But that constant ebb and flow. So you do the educational campaign, and then all these people that were originally targeted, how many of them still even live in the city? You got a big chunk that have probably moved from the kind of the temporary neighborhoods where folks come in, maybe live in an apartment. They eventually realize the American dream, buy their own home, and oftentimes it's not in Lowell. So in comes the next wave, and that's a challenge that I think communities like Lowell also have to deal with pretty regularly.
Right. And the new inspector speaks Spanish. And he did actually just comment to me that part of the outreach that he's done in the short time that he's been here was in my neighborhood. It was around, Back Central and Sacred Heart. And he said there were a lot of people that spoke Portuguese that he had gone and spoke with, and that they didn't understand the system. So he did emphasize the need to do more translated materials and everything. So that was good to hear.
Is there a better system? Has anyone looked around at maybe like changing it? You get one garbage barrel, traditional trash barrel, one giant recycling barrel. So I'm in Chelmsford. I'm allowed 2 trash barrels, and I'm allowed an unlimited number of recycling barrels. I would imagine this is something that needs to be negotiated with Waste Management or whoever comes up the next time. But it would maybe just allowing people more trash, more recycling, would that help kind of alleviate some of the problems, certainly the overflow problems, but maybe even the contamination problem if you allowed a second trash barrel?
Well, I think that
this is me playing city councilor again, by the way.
There'd be quite the cost increase with adding a second barrel of trash, and it might divert from recycling. So that would be something to have a conversation about. But
we don't have designated barrels in Chelmsford. You can kind of put a sticker on your recycling ones, and that suffices. So people are responsible for going out to buy their own.
So they don't have the automated arm then, and then there's a cost to having second drivers and trucks, and so I mean it's a financial piece too. So
and Chelmsford is a much smaller population than Lowell.
And some of us, like we don't fill our trash barrel even halfway, and we completely fill our recycling barrel. So perhaps more recycling would be a good thing. But I'm not sure that I want to pay as a family of 4 for people that aren't recycling. So there's kind of that piece too.
It's always a challenge, right?
Yep.
Right. You're watching the Inside View with Teddy Panos and Lowell City Councilor Kim Scott. We'll continue our discussion, and I promise we'll get to some of the big ticket items that have been dominating the council meetings. I want to thank our sponsors again: Washington Savings Bank, personal banking services, business banking services. They know the community. They've been here for well over a century. Now, they also have a special offer for Lowell and Draycote residents. You can get $300 simply by opening an account and getting $1,000 of qualified direct deposits in it, payroll, Social Security checks. It's a great offer, 30% return on your money. Take advantage of it, WashingtonSavings.com. Want to thank our friends at Reverie 73, a great local cannabis dispensary. Their mission statement: to listen, explain, inspire, and delight. They're opening a couple more locations, one in Beverly, one in Gloucester, planned for this coming spring and summer. And they are focused on customer education and the customer experience. Visit them, 1148 Bridge Street in Lowell, or order online at reverie73.com. And of course, thank you as well to our friends at Hafner's. You see both the Reverie and the Hafner's sign behind me here. Hafner's, it kicks. Check out their gas stations. They're all over the place. Just look for that Kicking Mule sign. You can't miss it. They've got their car washes and a car wash plan that is of great value to folks here in New England who deal with the New England winters and the splashy, snowy, rainy ice mix and all the salt. Keep your car clean with the Hafner's Car Wash Club. You can also use the Hafner's app to place orders, pay bills, update information, and more on your home heating services. Call 866-IT-KICKS or visit hafners.com to learn more. Back with Lowell City Councilor Kim Scott. Let's talk a little bit about your district here, because you represent what's known as the South Lowell District, District 5, if I remember.
It's not just South Lowell. No.
So you've got some of downtown, you've got some of the Highlands.
Back Central, some of the lower Highlands. Yeah.
So District 5, right? I remember my number correctly?
That's right.
All right. Talk a little bit about what's been going on in the year and a half. Do you feel, as a longtime resident of South Lowell, of that district, do you feel that this system of government allows you to better address the needs of your district? Are you hearing that from your constituents?
Absolutely. Like I said, I talk to people every day every day, all week long. So I've met so many residents in the district, and they've been able to, I think we've been able to accomplish a lot in the district that was not done before. I know some of it seems smaller, maybe, overhanging tree limbs or big potholes, or, street striping was one of the things. We had no street striping in the entire district. But there's been a lot of work that's happened. And then there's some big ticket items too that we're working on. So
yeah, I want to talk about those. Just a quick question. Is there somebody that you campaigned? You did a ton of door knocking. I remember talking to you, and you didn't do as much advertising as everybody else. Is there somebody who basically refused to support you or even refused to talk to you when you were first campaigning that now you've been able to win over and would be buds, without naming those people? Are you finding that now that you've been able to deliver the bacon, as they say in representation, that all of a sudden people are like, yeah, that Kim Scott's not that bad?
I think there's people that didn't support me that maybe supported another candidate that have now reached out and asked for help with issues. And obviously, they're my constituent. They live in the district, and I'm going to help anyone that I can. So
the reason I asked that is because I championed the district representation system, but for those who thought it was going to increase participation and encourage all these challengers to come forward and whatever, I said, yeah, the first cycle. But I always wondered, like, once somebody gets in there and starts doing, I don't want to say do favors, but starts doing constituent services. Somebody has a problem, you address it. It's pretty easy to win those people over, which makes it for a challenger, unless the district councilor, much like a state representative or a congressional member, is completely derelict in their duties, makes it really difficult to take them out once they've been incumbents. Do you feel like you've got now, as you seek re-election this fall, that you've got an advantage that you did not have running as a first-time challenger, whereas everybody was?
I would hope so. I mean, I've worked so hard, so it's almost like you can't imagine that you wouldn't get reelected because of how hard you've worked. But I think it could work the other way too, right? If you haven't done the constituent work, that you could be very, very vulnerable at that point, because people want to receive the email back, they want the call back, and they make it very clear. Because I will also reach out. There's a group email that comes to everybody. I will reach out to people that aren't in my district, and they'll let you know if their district reps don't reach out, don't get back to them. So I think it could work either way.
You put a lot of focus on your campaign on recreational opportunities in your district. Right. I think your very first motion involved kayaking, right?
That's right.
Where are we
at Muldoon Park? That is in the works. They're looking to move forward with it this spring. They're waiting for a waterway permit from the state, but that is still happening.
So you believe that by this summer, residents of your district will be able to throw a kayak
pending the state
in the water?
As long as the state approval goes through.
Well, you got to get in touch with
the city's ready to move forward. So.
Have you been pushing the state delegation?
No, now that you said that, I think I will. Actually,
I believe you, Representative Van Howard and obviously Senator Kennedy. You need them to speed that up. But that seems like a no-brainer. Why would that even be? Yeah,
and there's been no indication that it's going to be held up. I just, kind of putting that disclaimer out there.
All right. So Muldoon Park, O'Donnell
Park is getting a complete remodel. The entire park, the spray park, the basketball courts, the playground itself at the Shaughnessy School. The ARPA funds are going to be used to redo O'Donnell. And the CPA funds, it's actually in this week's agenda coming up, is to do the playground over, to make it handicap accessible and just a new playground for the Shaughnessy.
That's a great place that I discovered. I lived 6 months in South Lowell while the wife and I were looking to buy a house. And I discovered the splash pad back there, but it wasn't summer. But I do admit that sneaking over from Chelmsford, because I'm not that far from there, and bringing Ari over there, that splash pad's a great little secret.
Right, it is. But I mean, there's improvements they're going to make too, as far as, tables and overhead cover maybe for some of the parents sitting there. It's just going to be a great area, the whole entire thing. So, and the playground itself from the Shaughnessy School, there's a walkway that comes out from the school, and there's no handicap access to the playground, which is obviously not acceptable. So,
all right. I looked at my clock over here on the computer. We've chatted for 19 minutes and have not talked about homelessness in Lowell. I don't think you've gone a single city council meeting without talking about housing or council. Do you feel that there's too much time being spent on this discussion? That's one of our, it's actually our current poll question on InsideLowell.com is how much time do you think the city council has spent on the homeless issue? Too much, not enough, or just the right amount? How would you characterize it as somebody who's there every Tuesday for that?
I would not say too much. I would probably say just the right amount of time. I mean, it's an important issue. It's probably the most important issue that we have right now in the city. So I would not say that we're spending too much time on it. Obviously, we have other business that we do have to complete that's important for the city. At this point in time, they were clearing camps for a long time, and it had never been brought up as a major issue. But there's obviously a vocal group that's been involved, and they're bringing their concerns forward, and some of them are very legitimate. So.
Dare I say some people have been getting used as pawns for a different agenda?
Perhaps.
Can I say that?
Yeah, and I would say perhaps.
You're not disagreeing,
No,
or you're not ruling it out.
No.
Does Lowell have a homeless, a housing problem in general? Yeah. Are we able to, for those who want to live in housing and have a roof over the head in some way, shape, or form, be it a temporary situation or a hotel situation, are you satisfied that Lowell can put people in a safe environment who want to be in there? Crossing out the folks with the addiction or mental health issues that just can't, for whatever reason, abide by the no substance usage and some of the other rules that go along with being either in a shelter, hotel, or temporary facility. Are you satisfied? Do we have enough rooms to put people in?
We have enough beds right now with the winter protocol. I would say residents were reaching out to me right from the beginning, from right the minute I got elected, concerned about the homeless, especially around Plain Street, along the bend over by Johnny's Bench, Gorham Street. And it was kind of like, well, what can we do? There's no beds. And we can't just move them. We would just literally would be moving them from point A to point B, which made no sense. So I really didn't push clearing camps or anything like that. And then the winter came and the beds opened up within the shelter. But I am concerned what happens if that hotel funding ever goes away, if it doesn't continue from the state. That's a huge concern. When winter protocol ends, what happens? So we're definitely moving right now to try to find single occupancy type units in the city to help SMOC kind of relocate residents from the shelter and take that next transitional step up. I'm sure you heard we have 2 locations that just opened, the one on Westford Street and on Andover Street. We also have CPA funds that were approved last cycle for a transitional type unit on Merrimack Street. So those type of units need to continue to happen, and we need to use whatever funding we can to make that happen.
It strikes me that this is not an issue the city of Lowell can solve. If Lowell is successful in solving the tent city situation, et cetera, then that will just encourage more to come in because they know that they can get the help or the service, or that it exists if and when they're ready for it. It strikes me that this is obviously a federal issue, but the state is really the best equipped level of government to deal with this situation. Do you feel they're doing enough to help cities like Lowell that are kind of the front line?
No, I don't. I think we need to have the state more involved in this process, because Lowell cannot do this alone, like you just said. We'll just keep moving people out, moving people in, which is something, we have to challenge ourselves when we say we don't want camps. That's a challenge that we do want housing, right? You can't have one without the other. If not, we'd just be moving people all over the place. The state needs to invest in more small shelters, more small transitional, type units, and really help people take that step out of being homeless.
So why does the focus, why do the activists seem to be focusing on the city council chambers and Lowell? I would advise them get up to Beacon Hill, get to these some of the representatives and senators, sure, the ones in Lowell, but also the ones in other communities. Because I stumbled across the other day on Facebook a letter that Senator Simon Cataldo, who represents part of Chelmsford and Concord, he sent out there on the official State House stationery, kind of addressing the concerns that some families, as he worded it in Concord, got a little bit upset about a plan to put some folks in a hotel in Concord. Now, my understanding is it's a Days Inn in Concord, which I believe is somewhere near the kind of the prison and the hospital corridor. It's not even in the Tony neighborhoods of
But those
Concord.
students they could be transported back to their home school, but they also could enroll in Concord schools. That's their choice. And then
here's
you might
the problem.
see
And what's striking to me is that I think you'd be challenged to find a more woke community than Concord, Massachusetts.
well, maybe we need that. Maybe we need that. So.
And suddenly, the second, you talk about putting some homeless in a hotel, not even on the streets.
Right, but in their schools, they could be, right?
School, yeah. So wokeness ends at the end of the driveway, apparently.
But Tewksbury has a lot of hotels and a lot of residents families that are unhoused, that are in their hotels. They're also at the state hospital. So, I mean, it is.
Yeah, Chelmsford has multiple hotels that house them. Tewksbury has, I think they do the Motel 6. I don't know if they do any others, but ultimately, these communities that have the land where you can build some housing on, they're the ones that are going to solve the problem. You only have so many places in Lowell, unless you basically want to designate one city, be it Lowell, Lawrence, or whatever, as homeless cities, and everybody else gets to kind of wave at the problem and pretend they care.
But that's been the discussion around zoning change too for years, right? Is that we're not going to take care of our housing crisis unless there's changes to the zoning in the suburbs. Like Lowell can't do that alone, even though we are making changes to our zoning. But.
Is there any initiative that you've seen out there that you'd like to see the manager and the city explore further? I know there's been some talk. I heard one of your colleagues, Councilor Robinson, and Manager Golden has, I think, echoed it as well, trying to create these locations where you can kind of not lump everybody in together, but provide also the addiction services that are needed, the mental health services, try to kind of separate the folks who are homeless because they just lost a job versus those who are homeless because they're battling addiction or whatnot. Have you heard any ideas that you think make sense?
I heard that idea, and I think that's a model that would probably work, right? I mean, you have to have the wraparound services for these people. So if we're going to lump them all together, people that drink don't necessarily want to be with people that are, drug addicted. They don't, so I think it does make sense to really put them together, smaller community, bring the social services in. But of course, that all equals a lot of funding.
Money, resources, etc. Lastly, before I let you go, you served on the school committee. So let me get you to comment on this current school committee issue that seems to be tying up the city council. The school committee voted to hire an outside counsel to investigate some human resources allegations that kick-started when the outgoing city solicitor, Christine O'Connor, left a letter on her way out, or sent a letter. I notice on this coming Tuesday night's agenda, there's a motion on the city council for the city council to ask the mayor to ask the school committee to hold off on that for a period of time. There's also a motion on the school committee agenda now by Committeewoman Susie Chun to say, let's hold off on hiring somebody I think she worded it no more than a month. So everybody now suddenly seems to want to put the brakes on hiring outside counsel. I've heard other people say the city council has no business getting involved in this discussion. As somebody who served on the school committee, and I know you fought hard for their autonomy when you were there, now you're on the other side. Should the city council even be getting involved in this situation?
Well, I think where the issue comes along is that we pay for the lawsuits when they happen. Right. So I think there's concerns that this will open us up to a lawsuit. There's contractual language in the the school superintendent and their chief operations officer's contracts that I think need to be looked at before we move forward. I think they have the right to know what they're being accused of. And it does concern me that the city solicitor on her way out the door sends this letter out. And there's no documentation at this point in time. I'm not saying that there isn't an issue, that there isn't something to look into, but I'm not sure hiring an attorney at this point in time doesn't open us up to just liability for the district.
I recorded a podcast with Committeewoman Jackie Doherty recently, and that's something that, to me, something just doesn't sound right, that there's no documentation. The new solicitor, Helene Tomlinson, said, I can't find any paperwork. I can't imagine that there isn't paperwork. Did the prior solicitor walk off with the paperwork? Did she do what Joe Biden and Donald Trump are in trouble for? Take classified documents with her? Somewhere there are documents. And my understanding is there are grievances that have a paper trail that are part of this overall pattern of complaints. How does nobody have this?
Well, I think that's
documentation?
The concern. That is the concern. I watched your podcast with school committee member Doherty, and she had said that the first thing that the attorney would do is reach out to the former solicitor. That's what she said during the podcast. Like, that's not the way the process should work, right? I mean, like, we shouldn't be reaching out to another town to get information that's internal documents to the city of Lowell. So to me, that's an issue.
Is there something the city council can do on that end? Does the solicitor fall under the council or the manager, if I remember?
The solicitor falls under the council.
Under the council. Okay, so technically Christine O'Connor was under your folks' control, as is Helene
Did I get that right?
Tomlinson now. I always get it's the auditor.
I know the auditor.
I think it's the auditor and the solicitor.
No, the auditor and the city clerk, I believe.
Oh, the clerk. Okay, that's right.
Under the manager.
Oh, that's right, because I believe
should
Councilor
know that,
Robinson
sorry.
made a motion to try to change that, and it never really
Right.
went.
I think that's what I was thinking of, actually.
But still, it falls under the manager's office, and
Right.
the manager does fall under the council. So
Right.
like it or not, the council has to have some say in this because there are city documents.
And don't internal complaints lie within the city of Lowell's right to own those documents, to have access to those documents? See, to me that's a big issue.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
All right, more to come on this one. I understand there's some
absolutely.
news that will be coming out in the coming days. So, anything else you wanna add to folks out there? You basically confirmed you're running for re-election. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Love doing this. So
Do you have any campaign fundraisers coming up?
Not yet.
Real ones this time?
no, not yeah. No. I know the Sun reported that I had one. I did not have one. I did not invite people.
I was mad. I didn't get an invitation.
Yeah.
Not that I would have
Still looked
come,
them up
but
and said, not that you would have come.
I make it a habit not to go to any fundraisers because then I have to go to all of them. If you hold it at the Athenian, I have to be there to serve it, but I can't. All right.
Probably hold it in my district. So, yeah.
Kim Scott, City Councilor. Kim Scott, thank you so much for joining us. Not so bad, right?
No, not at all.
You're getting much more talkative
Yeah,
now than you
thank
were in
you.
the radio days.
Yeah.
Public service has been good for you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Want to thank all of you for tuning in whenever you watch this, during the day, during the night, on your phone, on your laptop. News and information on your schedule, not ours, is how we like to term it here at Inside Lowell. We also like to say, if Lowell is your home, this is your place. InsideLowell.com. Check it out. Catch up on all the stories, all the happenings. Watch all the podcasts, the serious ones, the zany ones. We got it all for you, folks. For now, I'm Teddy Panos signing off. Till next time, stay safe, everybody.